We now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say Hotep and Habaragani to my Africana Studies contemporaries and colleagues all, and let me hurry to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I always found goodbyes in my life to be quite traumatizing. I said I found goodbyes to be traumatizing. That's personal. I'm the Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we are located at 8916 South Main Street. We're being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, which is pastored by my good friend, the Reverend Della F. Hollins. If you're in the area and you feel so led, come by and worship with us. We'd be glad to entertain you and share worship with you. All right? Amen. Well, we have a lot to talk about. Before I get beyond myself, let me hasten to add that this offering that you're viewing is a social justice offering, and it's entitled It's Time, because we are trying to narrow the broad social justice issue down to the economic and the environmental, both of which we are making a total mess up. And so we have to continually to ask God's forgiveness for our sinfulness, for our shortcomings, for our lack of compassion, especially at this time when we see the destruction, the genocide of the Palestinian community. And I noticed that a lot of them look like me, but they are being exterminated, in danger of being exterminated. I had thought that the application for the Genocide Convention said the application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip, South Africa versus Israel. I had thought that might carry some weight, and it's not entirely futile. I noted one thing that the criminal court ruled in section 2. It lists that the deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part is prohibited under the genocide laws. I mention that because a lot of times here in the United States, conditions that are prohibited or calculated rather to bring about the physical destruction of black people in America, not just the outright homicide, that's another category, but the deliberate invoking or designing of conditions that they don't kill you immediately, but is indirectly contributes to your demise, to your lack. And that's why we always talk about environment, because your environment has a great impact upon your health and your lifespan. Your health, your life expectancy is affected by your zip code. And we have the records to prove it here in the United States that this government has deliberately designed and helped to bring about conditions. I try to stay away from the word create. Conditions that harm our people. I was looking at the YouTube, and one of the old timers was reflecting on the fact that the American Highway Program studied the maps, all the maps of the metropolitan areas, and deliberately and intentionally put the railroads and after that the highways directly through black business districts or black residential areas. Anywhere where the blacks were, that's where the highway came and dispossessed them. You know, you could be on this side of the highway or you could be on that side of the highway, but the highway you couldn't resist because that was eminent domain. And so the condition, the noise, the fumes, the pollution, and all of those things would impact the health on people on all sides of the highway. The noise all the time, all night long. It affects your rest. If you got babies, it affects their rest, which affects yours too. Please believe me. And this was done deliberately to destroy black livelihoods or black businesses. You got your money tied up in your business, and here comes the highway. The man gonna give you what he want to give you, and now you got to relocate and be removed from that area. You lose your customer base. You have to kind of get yourself together again to start another business if you can find a location that you can afford to be in, and then go back through the process of notifying your customers or else getting new customers if you have to move too far away that you are back in business. Therefore, your family life is impacted. Your health, please believe me, when you lose a business, that impacts your mentality. You need to undergo therapy just to let folks know how you feel. And so, for most of us, that type of therapy was not available. And we had to pick up and go on immediately and try to act like we was not hurt or that we were not overly affected, and just try to keep going on. But this genocide convention says that a party that deliberately contributes to conditions that are calculated to, let me read exactly what they said again, calculated to, oh man, I must have turned it over. Oh well. Anyway, conditions that are calculated to undermine the livelihood or the health care or the, here we go, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, whether whole or in part. That is an act of genocide. All right. And you can see how that fits most of our conditions and cases here in the United States. No, they don't deliberately commit homicide, but they deliberately create the conditions. You can't get to the doctor because the doctor is too many miles away. You can't get to the hospital because the hospital is not within a distance that you can negotiate, especially if you don't have a car. If you have to send someone to the hospital in an ambulance, well, that ambulance bill is going to be prohibitive when it gets back to you. And not only that, but if you have limited insurance and you need to go through the emergency and all like that, well, you got to pay those expenses out of pocket, which impacts your livelihood because emergencies like health are unexpected. We know they're coming, but we're hoping that they just won't come too often or too severely because it takes a lot out of your bank account, out of your savings, and everywhere when you have to pay for hospital visits, hospital care, or health care out of pocket. And a lot of us are limited in our job choices, so our jobs may not offer us the type of health care that we need when we have a healthcare emergency, just to put it mildly. So, like I said, deliberately create physical conditions that are calculated to bring about the harm, the damage, or the ultimate demise of a population. That's genocide. Homicide is when they directly want to kill one person. And you understand homicide because you watch all the TV shows, or else you have experienced or heard about or read about. And some of us have been involved in situations where a loved one has been killed by another party, killed at the hands of another person. And so that level of homicide, when carried out by a nation, is no longer homicide, it's genocide, because one nation is trying to destroy in whole or in part an entire other nation. And in Gaza, what the Israelis have done is bomb all of the hospitals, bomb all of the clinics, bomb all of the refugee centers, bomb all of the living places, residences, apartments, houses, and homes. And so they're making that area uninhabitable. It reminds me of the people that tried to return to New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina, but there was nothing there to return back to. The sewage was out, the lights was out, the gas was out, there wasn't no job, the hospital was closed, and so it had been rendered uninhabitable. And that was a deliberate plan by the powers that be to turn New Orleans lower Ninth Ward over to other people for them to do developments, which they have done. And but the original people who lived there and who had inherited that property, they were not allowed the right of return. And so this is what is happening now on an even more massive scale in Gaza, and it is nothing less than a genocide. Slow genocide is as dangerous as a fast genocide. Slow death, quick death. If they're killing you, it don't matter. And so Dr. Martin Luther King said one time that a man may live a long time, but the day that he turns his eye away from reporting or speaking about evil and doesn't say anything or doesn't do anything, from that day he dies. He or she dies. And I tremble to think that a lot of us are dying, and we're looking at the genocide and we're looking at the homicide, and we see the deterioration of the conditions, but we are silent because we say, well, those are the people of the Bible. Well, no, those are not the people of the Bible. Those are the people that replaced the people that were there. And the name the meaning of the name of Jacob meant a supplanter, and God changed his name from supplanter to father to Israel, rather, which means father of a nation. A lot of times, someone may be in your neighborhood, but they didn't build that neighborhood. They took over that neighborhood and moved out the people that were there because they either couldn't keep up with the high prices of rent or whatever other conditions. But the people that you see there were not the people that were originally there. So you may be confused as to how are things working out, and what is going on here? What am I seeing? And that's why you have to have a good grip on a history book, because at least a history book or a newspaper will help you to get some kind of bearings and as to what is what and why things are as they are, especially here in the United States. Moving on, we now see that the Trump attorneys will spare no pains to delay or halt his trials there in Georgia, and they're going after Fani Willis and saying that her romantic tryst with I think his name is Nathan Wade, which is the handsome gentleman standing beside her in the early days of the indictment, when she was at the podium. There was a handsome-looking black man standing right beside her. Well, the Trump lawyers have found out that they have a romantic relationship, which is nothing bad of itself. But if it's in that context, when they can challenge the Fani Willis's justification or grounds or authority to continue to go after Donald Trump for trying to overturn the 2020 elections. Remember, they got Trump's voice on the phone asking Mr. Raffensperger, who was the Secretary of State, if he could find him 11,780 votes. And that's why she went after him. It's a really slam dunk. But that's why you have to always stay on your guard, because white supremacy will always find a backdoor way to dig the dirt out from under your feet. They can't fight her on the law, and they cannot fight her on the facts, so they go after her, what? Personal integrity, your ethics, and now she is going to have to submit a brief to Judge McAfee. I believe it's got to be heard on February 2nd, and he's going to make a ruling on whether she can either continue to prosecute the case. You see how white supremacy works? And that's why you must always, as the Bible says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Huh? Because why? We wrestle not against flesh and blood. You think that she was just wrestling against Donald Trump? No, she's wrestling against principalities, against powers. They got people day and night that are researching in computer and running computer programs, especially with this new AI, that seek loopholes or seek a way in to overthrow your case. And this is what you are, what she is facing. And I don't imagine she recognized just how powerful white supremacy was, especially there in the state of Georgia, although she has really no excuse, because you know what the man is capable of, and you know he's not going to go quietly, and he's not going to play fair. I think Dr. Jeremiah Wright talked to us about the naivete of believing that there is fairness. There's no level playing field. You are always on the downside of the competition. You get into the field late, and your training, it has been limited. Other people have been out there for 100 years. Here you just not coming out of 246 years of straight up slavery and another 100 years of straight up Jim Crow that was as bad as slavery, and you tried to run a race that you don't have the rules of the game to run. And so this is what we must realize, recognize. You going into a place talking about everybody's equal. Ain't nobody equal in there. It's an unequal situation. You're the last one to know it. That's why they get all of these Karens and Mr. Karens on the YouTube now and in the news, where they're just resentful of black people that have kind of improved their condition. I say kind of because we ain't got nowhere. We ain't got to no promised land. And the little modicum of improvement that we get in our paychecks and in our businesses is just that, a little modicum. It ain't where you ought to be. It's just where you have attained unto. And the way that you have to go, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, you still got a long way to go to get to the promised land. And there's going to be a lot of not just pitfalls, stumbling blocks, valleys, gullies, and landmines, and ravines out there for you. Grand Canyons even, that you're going to have to negotiate in order to get to the promised land. And so you need to be mindful that you haven't got nowhere. We're not where we ought to be. And even at that little level that we have attained to, the resentment on the side of our white brothers and sisters knows no bounds. When they find you have developed, have been able to get a nice place to live in, they resent that. Of course, I've talked to you about that, and your life experiences should have shown you that by now. You can never let down your guard. You can never take a deep breath and say, well, it's all over. No, it's not over. It's not all over, because your enemy doesn't like you, and he and she are spending all of their time trying to undermine and turn back the clock and dig the dirt out from under your feet. And if you got a little progress, they're going to try to push you back. If you made 2 steps forward, they're going to push you back a mile. And the sooner you recognize that and work within that knowledge, the better off you will be. Look at Tim Scott down there. I won't use that terminology, but brown nosing with the Donald Trump, talking about, you remember he said that America is not a racist country. Vivek Swamy said the same thing, but they didn't vote for him in Iowa because he looked darker than Nikki Haley. And him and her from the same place over there in India. And but they didn't vote for Ravik Swamy, whatever his name, the Indian guy, because they could look at him and tell that he looked like George Floyd. It's not funny, but it is comical. You remember Alan Keyes had that same mindset, and they wouldn't even let him get on the debate stage. The police arrested him and put him in handcuffs and put him in the back of the police car until the debate was over. Then they told him you can go. Amen. So don't ever get comfortable thinking you got it made. You ain't got it made. Somebody's plotting against you right now. You don't even know it. It's similar, analogous to 1884, to the Berlin Conference that was held in 1884, where Belgium and Great Britain and France and Germany and Portugal and all of those European countries, I'm leaving some out, but you know who I'm talking about. What were they dividing up? They were dividing up the entire continent of Africa. Entire continent. Notice who, all right, thank you. Got 5 minutes. Notice whose names I did not say was there. Kenya wasn't there. Ghana wasn't there. Nigeria wasn't there. The Congo wasn't there. But they were on the menu. Just because you ain't at the table don't mean you ain't on that menu. And so those were the people who divided up the present configuration of the continent of Africa. And you realize, well, history tells you how brutal King Leopold was, but then the British were equally as brutal. In fact, it was the British who introduced the concentration camps to the world. And they did that in Kenya. That's how brutal and how vicious they were to those people. Out open air concentration camps. That's where the word came from. It's from the Britain. For how their harsh treatment of the people of Kenya. At that time, they said the sun never set on the British Empire, and it didn't. From its little island, it controlled India and all of those parts of the world. But my point is to be made is that somebody's always after what you have. And you have to do everything you can to safeguard and to prevent your overthrow and to keep people from taking away from you what you have worked so hard to get. I'm trying to think of this lady's name. She passed away, Miss Wright. And the corporations wanted to take away her land. All this was her land that she had inherited. And she was 96 years old, and she had to start fighting to try to keep her land because they were coming up to her front porch and trying to claim that so many feet of her yard was on their property, all that type of stuff. The man never sleeps on you. You may go to sleep, but the man never sleeps on you. He's always plotting. Look how long it has taken to fulfill the 54 Brown v. Board decision. And it's honored more in the breach than in the obedience. And so you can never be comfortable. And remember what all of the candidates for the Supreme Court said? They said, oh no, we recognize stare decisis. And if the law is already settled, we don't go back over it. And soon as they got this 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, what did they do? They began to turn back affirmative action. They overturned Roe v. Wade, which was the Dobbs decision, as he called it. How do they do that? Because they never rest. You're going to sleep, high-fiving, celebrating. You got to be aware of your enemy. And that's why Paul, in the book of Ephesians, said, put on the whole armor of God, because you wrestle not against flesh and blood. You got folks that are plotting on you 24/7. All right, so as I get out of here, I haven't done very much. Hope I haven't made you mad. But I ask you to be mindful of your surroundings. Take care of yourself. And remember, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, don't do like the slaves. Turn around and get off of there, because if they don't want to pay you, don't work for them. Bless you. Thank you, Doc. We're out of here. Thank you now.